Hey everyone, Aaron here. Campus Life last night was super fun hanging out with you guys, and this is the video blog. We're going to start doing the video blogs again, just to help you chew over a little bit more about what we talked and to take it kind of to the next level. And last night we were looking at the question that Taylor had: is being an adult hard? And that it's a great question, but it's just not specific enough. And so I wanted to think about how I could answer that question, and the reasons why Taylor was asking that question maybe. And I began to think about some of the fears that we have when we grow up. And some people are afraid to separate from their parents. Others are afraid to leave the fantasy world that they had built up, and so they're afraid of transitioning from this fantasy world into reality. Others are afraid of being alone. Whether you are looking for that person that you want to be with, or whether you're not able to fit into the adult group that you're trying to find. Others are just afraid to be alone. Some people are afraid of the extra responsibility that being an adult that comes with being an adult, and that's really what some of the questions that you have are, some of the extra responsibilities that we have as adults. And some of the questions you had were a lot about money and how you do budgeting and how you rent an apartment, things like that. And those are a lot of the responsibilities that adults have. And understandably, teenagers just don't know a lot about that because you have no reason to. But as you get older, you will, and so that's a lot of responsibility. The last thing that that we talked about last night was the fear of dying. And the more you get older, the more you are closer to death. Unfortunately, that's just life. And I found this quote, and it says, "The more we value in life, the more we lose to death." And when we were talking about is being an adult hard, all these things play into this question of, is being an adult difficult? And when I was trying to figure out the best way to answer this question, I immediately thought of Peter Pan and why he wanted to go to Neverland. And I talked about the reason he went to Neverland was because he never wanted to grow up. But I don't think we really think about why he didn't want to grow up and why he wanted to move away and become a boy forever. And most people don't think that Peter Pan chose to go to Neverland because he had a choice. He had a choice to either make growing up about himself or growing up about other people, about Wendy. Wendy loved Peter, and Peter didn't have the responsibility, the selflessness to be able to give that back, and so he chose himself over Wendy, and that's why he never really wanted to grow up, because he didn't have to deal with that. And I kind of concluded that being an adult has its challenges. Like we talked about some of the things like money and things like that. There's a difficulty behind that though, and that is this. And I think this is how we answer the question, is being an adult hard? I think being an adult is more difficult if you don't learn to love other people. And that kind of spurred the discussion for everyone else in the room about what does it mean to love people, and how do you know when you love someone. Someone even said, how can you love others if you don't love yourself? And then Dave piped in and used Danielle and I as an example about loving others and laying down your life for people, because when we talk about laying down your life, it's not actually like dying for someone, although it has happened. I use an example of this mother that jumped in front of her car to save her kids. She used herself as a human speed bump so the car wouldn't go into the road. And that really is the ultimate expression of how you love someone, is laying down your life for someone. But that doesn't always mean physically. That laying down your life for someone and dying to yourself means that you are making your life about someone else, not about yourself. And that can look different in a lot of different situations. One could be physically, like this woman jumping in front of the car. That's why we do Project Serve, is because we want people to know what it's like to be selfless in this age of being selfish. And it means taking what we want and setting that aside to benefit other people. And that really is, I think that the answer behind the question, is being an adult hard? I think it is more difficult if you don't learn how to lay down your life for other people. And that can mean a bunch of different things. I just said a quote a few minutes ago about the more we give into life, the more we lose to death. Jesus said something similar, and I said the quote last night, but I didn't reference it. But he said, if you take your desires and you set them aside to benefit someone else, and you sacrifice something to benefit someone else, that is denying yourself. And that's what Jesus says. He also says something else. He says the ultimate way that you can show that you love someone is to lay down your life. And just like this woman in the car and her kids jumping in front of the car, Jesus laid down his life for us. He knows that we're on a path. He knows that we give everything to life and we lose it in death. And Jesus knows this, and that's why he says this. He says, when you lay down your life for someone else, that is the ultimate way of showing that you love someone. Now, Jesus isn't just talking, because I know Jesus was the ultimate example, because he laid down his life for everyone else so that he could bring people back to God through his death. But we don't all have to die like Jesus to do that, to bring people back to God. Jesus does that himself. But what Jesus says is, when you lay down your life for someone else, that is how you show that you love them. And that doesn't always mean dying for someone. That means just what I talked about, is taking what we want and laying that aside to benefit someone else. And that could look very differently on different situations. Has anyone ever done something for you that you don't deserve? And so I guess I want to leave you with a challenge of this, is as you get older and as you become more of a grown-up, which will happen, I ask and I challenge you to begin trying to understand what you can do to begin laying down your life to benefit other people. And I'm not saying death, I'm saying sacrifice. What can you sacrifice? What can you do to lay down your desires to benefit someone else? Because as you become a grown-up, dealing with that and doing that has so many rewards and benefits, not just for you, but for the other people that you will begin to live with and work with. So I hope that kind of unpacks it a little bit more. This is the Campus Life blog. Next week, we're going to talk about big money. Talking about loans and mortgages and what you do with as you get older. You got all this money you got to do it. And unfortunately, you can't always spend it on KFC. We'll see you next week.